Today is Rare Disease Day, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about rare and ultra rare diseases. My name is Jonathan James with Hope Charities, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about how to raise awareness for so many people living with bleeding disorders that are in rare or ultra rare conditions. As many of you may know, I have severe hemophilia A, and that is unfortunately a little bit more common knowledge than some of the rare and ultra rare diseases like Factor VII deficiency. And today I wanted to talk with a good friend just a little bit about what the challenges and things that have been going on in her life with living with Factor VII deficiency. And today I'd like to introduce this very special guest, Shatara Askew. It is great to see you today. Thanks so much for joining me for the Hope Podcast.
Thank you. How are you?
Doing great. I'm really excited on Rare Disease Day to really raise awareness about some of the bleeding disorders that people might not have heard of as frequently as maybe some of the other types of bleeding disorders. And, living with Factor VII deficiency, there's so many challenges that you face that I think are really unique, but there's also a lot of commonalities as well. And so, love to dive into that a little bit. But tell us first where you're from and also how you're affected by a bleeding disorder.
Hi, my name is Shatara Askew. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I have Factor 7. I got diagnosed at 12.
That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome. Every time we meet somebody with a bleeding disorder, I'm sure you do this too, Shatara. It's like, we're like, you have hemophilia, you have a bleeding disorder? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, it's not great, but it's kind of great that we know each other now. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, so you were diagnosed at 12, and
Yeah.
that's something that is a little bit challenging because as a female living with a bleeding disorder, period, you already kind of break the mold from what people are looking for typical. I'm kind of in the center of the target. They look at me and they're like, "Yep, you got it." But they look at maybe a female living with a bleeding disorder, like my two daughters, or maybe some of your family, and they're going to go, "Well, we don't know." And there's a bunch of hunting and
Yeah.
kind of you have to see a bunch of specialists, and it's very difficult, right?
Yes. It is. So far, well, I'm the only one in my family that has it. My daughters actually, they just diagnosed her with it. So like now, it's on the up and up. And it's like you said, when I tell someone that I have Factor 7, that I have a rare bleeding disorder, the lights either gonna go off or they stuck. Like, okay, what is it? What's going on? Is this a life threatening thing? Is it cured? So I definitely get a lot of questions asking me about it, and like, how do I live with it? It has its pros and it has its cons. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you have your good days, sometimes you have your bad days, and living with it, it's an emotional roller coaster. I can say that.
Yeah. And your treatment options are relatively small. You only have one or two medications you can pick from. And has that been a challenge as well?
It's just sometimes getting the medicine on time. About I'm only able to use Novel 7. Like I haven't tried nothing else.
Hmm.
It's not too much out there for Factor 7, so it's like
Right.
it's like so far that's the only one that I can use that's comfortable for me because it's nothing
Hmm.
else that can fit mine.
Right. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand too is that, 95% of rare diseases do not have any treatment whatsoever. That's why days like today are so important for us to advocate because we need more treatment options because there is no such thing as a one size fits all. And even that one medication that you have, can sometimes things change in life and you might need more,
Yeah,
volume, or you might need a different approach or something like that. Right.
yeah. And that's my biggest fear, I think, and that's what I was telling my husband, that's my biggest fear. If What if no other medicine come out for Factor 7? Then what is our next step? Like, what are we
Right.
gonna do if Novo doesn't work anymore?
Right. It's definitely something that have to be concerned about and worried about. That's why advocating like
Yeah.
this and sharing our story is so, so important. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you is what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from living with a bleeding disorder?
I have learned that you're gonna go through some things, some challenges, but you have to continue to have faith in God and know that God is gonna lead you in the right direction and the right path.
Mm,
Even though I'm living with a rare disease, I'm not gonna let it stop me.
that's awesome.
It's not gonna control my life. I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep advocating for me and my daughter, and for anybody else that's out there. I'm gonna fight. We gonna all fight together.
That's so good. I see you wearing a shirt that looks like from Hope Conference,
Yes,
thriving
I have
over
my
surviving,
hoodie
right?
on from Hope Charity. Yes, I have my hoodie on that I won from Hope Charities in the raffles when we went to Orlando, Florida.
That's awesome. How was your experience at conference this past year? Was it your first time?
Yes, this was my first time being at Hope Charities Conference, and when I say I absolutely, absolutely love everything about it, the hospitality was great. Everybody was great. It was like welcome arms. Everybody was a family. I did not feel like left out. Like they was on it. I loved it so much to the point that me and my husband want to volunteer for next
Oh,
conference.
that's so awesome. Well, I'm so glad you got to come. I always say that one of the best things about being diagnosed with the bleeding disorder is the community that comes along with it. And, we're determined to build healthy community whenever possible. That annual meeting is one of those things that we just get so much, uh, you know, uh, energy from, to be able to be together in the same room and get to know so many new faces and friends. And it just was a joy to have you for sure. And I'm looking forward to next year. It's going to be in November again, so that's going to be exciting. But
Yes,
shameless plug for anybody looking out. Or I think registration this year is going to open up around late March, so hopefully it won't be too much longer, so people can look at that online. But I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Is there any kind of just through your journey? I know you're not the only one affected in your family. You're trying to sort through some things with your own other family members and everything as well. But is there anything that you wish kind of the whole world understood about the challenges that you've lived with living with a bleeding disorder, that you kind of wish that they knew?
I wish that people know that when living with a rare disease, I want people to understand that it's not easy,
Hmm.
and we're gonna be an emotional wreck. Like, but I just continue to say that I'm a trust and believe
Come
God
on.
that He's gonna always be by my
That's so
side.
good. That's so good, Shaktara. I One of the things that I think is so important, people underestimate the value of faith until faith is all you have. I do think that that's something
Baby,
that's
stop.
so important, is that you get pressed in a rare disease scenario. And I think sometimes people get
Yes,
really squeezed and they don't know where to turn. But having healthy community is important, but having faith to move forward, I think, is so vital for it. It has been my lifeline in my life as well, and I know that that's yours too. And I appreciate your outlook, because it's so important that we hold on to those things that help keep us moving in the right direction. And I love that that's such a big part of your moniker. I believe that in living with a rare disease, that there's so, and really any type of invisible disorder, especially, there's so much judgment from the outside world that,
I, that was
oh
my next
gosh, it's
thing was
so
finna.
hard.
Judgment when it come down to a rare disease or any bleeding
Yeah,
disorder. They look at us crazy. They don't know if they want to touch us or not touch us. They don't know if we can take this. So it's like it's a
it
lot
is
that
a
comes
lot.
with it. You definitely have to have a strong support system,
Yes,
a strong backbone, and I cannot stress it no more. You have to advocate.
yes.
You because it's a lot of people out here that's not educated on nothing that we going through. A lot of people still doesn't know about rare bleeding
That's so
disorders.
true. That's so true, which is why I'm so.
They a lot of people thinking like, what is that? I never heard of that. I have got told that so many times to the point I left certain hospitals because they didn't know anything about my factor seven, the rare bleeding disorder. They didn't know what
Mhm.
medication. So it's like you have to advocate for yourself because if not, things are gonna change.
Yep. It's so true, and I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that that's why we need each other, right? We've gotta be able to stick
Yeah,
together and encourage each other because the
yes,
hard days come, the hard days are difficult, they are not easy, but when we have each other, there's something about strength in numbers. And that's one of the things that I'm
yeah,
so proud of in our community is that we have a strong support system. You know, I've been able to have the pleasure to work with the Rare Disease Advisory Council in our state and several other types of rare disease groups. And so many people don't have the strength of the community that we have in hemophilia. It's not perfect. There's obviously a lot of things we need to improve on, even in the bleeding disorders community. But I do think that the biggest thing is that if we can get to a place we can empathize with each other, you and I can empathize with each other, and the circumstances that we've
yeah,
lived through differently than I think even the outside world can. And so it starts there, but the stronger we get to and we are able to stand together in our hard days, I do think the rest of the world starts to begin to understand there's so much to the need for awareness, and that's what moments like this do, that's what days like this do, is it helps to bring
yeah,
awareness to the challenges that we're facing.
yes.
So good.
We definitely, and like you, when you have that support, it makes you feel so good because you got somebody that's going through what you're going through, and when they figure some stuff out or hear something, they connect you with this person or connect you with that person. So one thing about living in a bleeding disorder and you having that support and that connect, some way somehow somebody gonna help you.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be in this.
Well, and I know you're always willing to help. So, I encourage, if you're listening to this right now and you've never met another person that has Factor VII deficiency, Shatara is ready and willing to help. So just comment below and we'll make certain that you guys get connected. But and if nothing else, you can
Yes,
always email us at info@hope-charities.org. We'd be glad to make certain that Shatara gets your information to be able to connect with you. But Shatara, thank you so much for just being willing to be vulnerable and have the courage to share your story.
thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a true joy. We were talking about this right before the call about how, if it hadn't been for a diagnosis like we have, we probably would have never met today. And it's a joy to
Yes,
know you and your family. And I'm so thankful that we're connected. And I look forward to all the years ahead. And I think there's a lot of progress to be made, and we can do it if we stand together. So thank you so
yes,
much for being a part
yes.
of it.
Thank you so much for having the opportunity to even be on the podcast today and tell my story living with Rare Factor
I
7.
love it. It's awesome. Well, we'll see you in the next one. And thanks again for being here today, Shatara.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, I tell you what, there's so many things that we still have to learn about all of these different types of rare disorders. And I'm excited just to be able to highlight Factor VII deficiency. If you'd like to learn more, there's plenty of information on the CDC website in the Community Matters and Connections tab and portal. You can also check out more information on our website. But today, as we celebrate Rare Disease Day, I just want to say a big thank you again to Shatara for joining me for the podcast, because it is moments like this that we get an opportunity to share our stories, to learn more about all of these rare and ultra rare situations so that we can be able to support each other better and better. Thanks so much for joining me for the Hope podcast today. And we look forward to seeing you very soon, right around the corner in the next episode. Take care now.